Our guy Dane Brugler at The Athletic reporting that Jalen Milroe has been invited to attend the NFL draft in Green Bay, which
has accepted.
That means has accepted an invitation. So that means first round green room. Now, here's the thing about the first round green room. The NFL does not want a Will Levis situation to happen ever again. They do not want somebody who's at the green room to be falling asleep because they're not getting picked in the first round. And the suggestion here is that if he has accepted this invitation, he feels very confident he's getting picked in the first round. And that the NFL is very confident that one of its teams will pick him in the first round.
Yes, that's kind of an interesting thing because I think that we knew that he was going to probably play his way or test his way into a pretty high pick. I did not envision it being first round. And I'm wondering if that is a case of teams needing a quarterback and there not being a ton of options, or if this is a case of Jalen Milroe, who people view as like the reason Alabama didn't make the playoff last year, is a productive potential NFL starter, which is an interesting thought because, you know, what's the number one criticism that people have with him? That he can't throw the intermediate pass and that he's not an accurate.
That one, and also that he'll walk his way into sacks.
So, like, to me, it's like, do you feel like that's something that can be fixed? We've seen quarterbacks become more accurate, but it's been rare. I think Josh Allen is the number one example of a player who wasn't terrible.
The only one?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Jalen Hurts wasn't an elite level passer when he was at Bama, and now I think he's got one of the nicest. I mean, he throws passes in the NFL on a weekly basis that make my jaw drop. So, like, I don't know. I mean, Jalen and Jalen get compared. Obviously, there's a lot of things to compare them with: their name, their school, where they're from.
They're both from Texas.
But yeah. I wonder if like this is a player that is as physically gifted as anybody who plays that position. That GMs and scouts and coaches believe that they can, you know, fine tooth comb, whatever you want to say, into a really good NFL quarterback. And I'm also wondering too, if the Jaden Daniels impact of it, which is a player who can run really, really well, is becoming again, the more attractive, you know, type of NFL quarterback prospect that teams need. And they feel like in the late first round that's a worthy, you know, swing to take.
I'll throw another name out there though. Now, obviously Jalen Milroe has a lot more college experience than Anthony Richardson did when the Colts took him at number 4. And Anthony Richardson was viewed as kind of a once-in-a-generation physical freak prospect, not necessarily because of what he did on the football field. It was his physical attributes just don't exist anywhere else, and that's why he got picked there. There's a little bit of that with Milroe because of his speed, because of his arm strength, and I think that's probably what's carrying the day here. But I would not pick any quarterback in the first round who isn't Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I'm just saying that right now. The fact that Jalen Milroe is going to the green room suggests that he's going in the first round. There may be another one too. It depends because there's a lot of quarterback needy teams. Like, could this be the Steelers at 21? Could the Browns not take Shedeur and then take Milroe at 24?
Yeah. I saw a few mocks of like the Browns trading into 24 to take him there. I don't know. Like, it depends on, you know, how bad you need a quarterback, but also too, like if you take somebody that you feel comfortable with at 2 and you want to give up some draft capital to take a swing, like I think that's probably a better use of a draft pick than using him in the, you know, with your only pick.
Yeah. And I want to point out, you were not comparing Jalen Milroe to Jaden Daniels. You were saying NFL teams may want a better running QB because Jaden Daniels showed you.
And I also think there needs to be a distinction made too on the type of runner that Cam Newton was. And you know, Cam Newton had a lot of long breakaway explosive plays on the ground. I'm not saying that, but Cam Newton was a big physical pound on 4th and 2 type of guy. And the closest thing that we have to that in the NFL in terms of running at this point is Josh Allen, who's also a tremendous passer.
Jalen Hurts
too. I mean, do they do the tush push, but like, do they run Jalen Hurts like the way that they used to run Cam a lot? I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Yes, Jalen Hurts is one of their main options on 3rd and 4th and short. Yeah. And but that because he's built for that.
But I'm wondering, like, if Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels type of elusiveness and speed is the more attractive running option at quarterback than it is the big, bulky, pound him.
Right. And Jalen Milroe is actually sort of splitting the difference between those two, because Milroe's not slight like Lamar and Jaden are. He's not the power lifter that Jalen Hurts is. I mean,
if the video game is any indication, he's Cam Newton, Michael Vick, and Jaden Daniels all in one. So I don't like he's the most lethal player in the NCAA video game. And every time I play Alabama online, I just die a little inside because I know what's coming. The only quarterback where we're spying him and edging out the rushers to contain him doesn't work. And it's impossible to sack. But like I don't know. Like the thing is, like, Jalen Milroe has been the target of a lot of crap, right?
Yeah.
And like I think that it's gotten so intense, and mainly from Alabama fans who are probably upset with the way that the season went, that we've like convinced ourselves that he stinks. And like I think that that's like
I don't think he stinks, but there's a lot of stuff that he did in college that would give me pause if I was an NFL GM. Like, and it's not just the inaccuracy on the mid-range stuff. It's more the creating sacks that didn't necessarily have to be sacks. Taking your eyes, letting your eyes drop. Walking into a pass rush when if you have good pocket awareness, you're sliding away from it. That's what I'm more worried about, because he's not going to have as good of an offensive line wherever he goes in the NFL as he had at Alabama relative to the competition. You're going to deal with really nasty pockets. And if you can't,
how much do you think that's something you can fix, though? Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know.
I don't think you can fix it.
No.
I think that's just that sort of sixth sense thing that the really good quarterbacks, especially the drop back guys that aren't fast, but you see that they can kind of sense pressure and move. You're born with that.
Yeah, because he's got a really pretty deep ball. I feel like between the elusiveness and the ability to hit people deep, like if you're able to, work with him and improve his patience and improve his tendencies in dirty pockets, that maybe you might find something there. I don't know, but I think that the NFL will always, always, always take whatever quarterbacks are there, even if it's a bad year or a down year.
Let me throw some options at you. So I'm going to let you be the GM. So let's say the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers can't come to any sort of agreement and they need a starter for this year. Or like you were talking about, the Browns decide they don't want to go with Shador really high and they're going to trade and try to get somebody lower in the first round. Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart? Who would you take?
I'd probably take Jackson Dart.
I would too. Jalen Milroe or Tyler Shook? Who would you take?
Jalen Milroe. Tyler's always injured.
It's a toss-up for me too, because I have issues with either one. Jalen Milroe or Quinn Ewers?
Jalen Milroe.
Because of Ewers' injury history?
Ewers is injured every year. And like I think that he was a good player. I don't know if I view him as like you also know who I am as a person, and I'm willing to roll the dice against the crap board a little bit more than maybe you can and I feel like the upside, like I think that Quinn Ewers probably has a smaller or like a higher floor. But I don't know.
But Milroe has a higher ceiling.
And I think I might go for the ceiling guy with no injury issues.
Can I throw one more at you? And this is a guy that is not going to be a first round prospect, but he's going to get drafted at some point in this draft. Jalen Milroe or Kyle McCord?
Probably Jalen Milroe.
Okay. I'm very interested in Kyle McCord because I'm trying to figure out who could be the guy who gets drafted 4th, 5th round, 6th round, who might actually wind up being an NFL starter. He seems like, if we're going to pick candidates for that, he seems like the candidate to me.
How many? I don't know the answer to this, and I'm not sure you do off the top of your head, but you're the encyclopedia of just random information. How many quarterbacks in the NFL are starting right now that were 5th round, like after the 3rd round? Like, I mean,
Dak and Brock Purdy.
Those are the only two I can think of.
But we remember them because they are.
Because they're good. Yeah. But like, I don't know how common that is. That's the thing too. Like the really, really good NFL teams are the ones who take players in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round who end up being productive starters for multiple years. And like, if I were an NFL GM, I would probably be less into the notion of taking a quarterback in the 5th round because A, it's rare. And B, you can get really good, solid players at key positions in those rounds that are undervalued that actually can contribute to your team.
Well, I would take him. I would take that 4th or 5th. Like if I had a good starter, that's where I'd take the 4th or 5th round or 6th round quarterback that I thought had a chance to be something, because I might be able to develop him into something that could replace my guy when he retires, or that could be a trade chip later. I would look at it sort of like your college coaches who take a quarterback every year, and then some years they don't take the most highly rated guy because they've already got a highly rated guy and they don't want to scare off the highly rated guy. But then the guy you took for depth winds up being your starter. Really, Mac Jones is an example of that. Mac Jones was actually the 2nd QB in his class. Tua was the other one. So I think that's the sort of thing you want to do when you do that lower round quarterback. It's when you already have a quarterback.
Or if you're a team that doesn't have a quarterback at all that wants an extra option in training camp, because like that's the other thing too. It's like even if one's more of a long shot, like the poker expression, you want to chip in a chair. Like if I were the Browns, I would take a quarterback with my 2nd pick, and then I might consider like somebody like that in the 5th or 6th round,
like a Kyle McCord or a Dylan Gabriel or somebody like that.
Right. That like might have a chance to be really, really good. I also think too. And I don't know, you tell me about this, but like, it's just like the NFL seems so situational. I think that there's so many what if game. Like, I feel like I will say this, like if Tim Couch got drafted to a really good franchise, like I think he could have had a completely different NFL career. And I think part of the reason why Brock Purdy is so good is because he's at a functional place that knows how to call offense and play to their quarterback strengths. So like the players that go to Cleveland to always get their heads bashed in because they're never in the right system and they don't do a good job of harboring and developing those guys. So like if you're a team that has a quarterback, like, I don't know, like even like the Lions or something that is just like, you have your guy, you probably have a guy for 3 or 4 more years. You have a lot of young players and you need a backup. Like you bring him in and then all of a sudden he opens your eyes. But like I look at like Brock Purdy, it's like, I don't even know why they took him to begin with. Like,
well, Brock Purdy, and here's where people missed on Brock Purdy. Like Brock Purdy raised the level of play at Iowa State for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like he made them better despite the fact that they had inferior talent to most of the teams they played. And he made them the better team in most cases. So like that matters. And it's we don't usually get to see that happen in college because the guys that are capable of doing that are usually on the teams that have more talent.
Yeah. And then also too, there's a big deal of like, and this might be a thing that actually plays into McCord in Ewer's favor. And even maybe Dylan Gabriel to the same extent, but like quarterbacks who played a lot of games tend to be more ready to compete at a high level in the NFL. Whereas, guys who were a starter for a year and a half, sometimes struggle a little bit. Like Dylan Gabriel played more snaps than all these guys, maybe a few of them combined. Right. So, like I think that it's an interesting thing, but like when you start talking about 5th and 6th round quarterbacks in a draft where there aren't a lot of like surefire first rounders, it's like, where would these guys be in a normal draft? Like undrafted guys? Like it just
right. But here's the problem is I'm having problems picking between Jalen Milroe and some of these guys, and we're talking about them as 6th rounders. Like this suggests he's gonna be a 1st rounder, and I like what Dave's here says in the chat. Just by picking a 3rd round QB in the 1st round doesn't make him better.
Yeah.
Like that's a good point. Like just because you need a quarterback doesn't mean you should overreach for that quarterback.
Yeah. Also,
you should take him where you think he's going to fall, because why waste a high draft pick on him?
Notion again of like what Greg McElroy said last week of like, just because somebody's super talented doesn't mean they're good at football, and Jalen Milroe, I think, was a better college quarterback than Anthony Richardson. Is that a fair thing to say?
Oh, very fair. Jalen Milroe was a much better college quarterback than Anthony Richardson.
And I also the thing with Jalen Milroe is that we all have this sour taste in our mouth about him. And I think it's part of the reason why he's being negged as much as he's being negged. But I don't think that he is a lost cause as a player. And I also do wonder too, like if they would have beaten Oklahoma like where would we be talking about him since the beginning of this
Well,
process?
if he'd have opted out of the Outback Bowl, we'd have a nicer conversation about him.
Like I feel like we're looking at 1 or 2 games, but like how many previews have we done?
I'm not looking, but I watched every Jalen Milroe start, Ari.
I know, but I'm saying like
I'm not talking about just 1 or 2 games. Here's the thing, like
the tenor of the conversation around him. We spent 5, 6, 7 previews on Alabama this past year talking about how much of a weapon he is, and now he sucks. Which one is it?
Go back to the Arkansas game in 2023 and just watch him step into those Landon Jackson sacks. Like,
yeah,
I can't unsee that.
Yeah, and I think that that's fair too. And like the thing too is, if collecting cards has taught me anything, it's that, you know, it's very, very hard to not fall in love with people who do great things in college and then think that like Justin Fields is always going to be the person that I look to as like the biggest blunder of my collecting, because I spent a ton of money on him as a prospect, and you know, it turned out that he didn't turn out to be that good. And I wonder, like, I go back and I think about it. It's like, well, he was incredibly gifted from a physical standpoint. He was the heart and soul of a team that he started for multiple years. He took them to the highest, you know, possible place out, you know, into the national.
But he was also surrounded by more talent than everyone else, and that's the hardest part, I think, when you're judging these quarterbacks, because like I can't blame what Jalen Milroe, the issues he had on his offensive line. His offensive line was good.
Yeah,
his receivers were good. His backs were good.
To put a bow on the Justin Fields point, though, is that like everything that you would want to see, you saw out of him. And he even like completed like 15 out of 16 passes in the Clemson Fiesta Bowl game where he outperformed Trevor Lawrence on national television. And then like all of a sudden it's like, well, he can't scan and read defenses and just misses guys who are open and doesn't throw it enough. And it's like, well, that's how he's become this like run first guy in the NFL, and is completely, he's going to have another shot. And I don't know that all my hope is gone that he could be a productive NFL quarterback, but it's like, then all of a sudden Brock Purdy, who's in the same draft or the draft after him, I should say, gets drafted in the last pick. You don't think twice about it. And then he's like a starter for a Super Bowl team. Like it's really, really hard to see coming. And I honestly, then I talked to a good buddy of mine who's an NFL scout, and he goes, a lot of times we are just taking swings in the dark the way that you guys do, because it's really, really hard to tell which ones are actually going to be good. I mean, think about it.